talking about how his
Springfield, like
hot
with the
take of
Simpsons.
yeah,
Yeah.
Springfield's like literally an exit that's like not even a mile apart. It's just on the other side of I-5 of Eugene.
Kinda.
It's like the
Filthy
armpit of
brown water
Eugene.
trash.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow. You know,
What show's that from? Who knows?
They just
Filthy
have
brown
one
water
road
trash.
in, and that's out.
that's out.
Goodness gracious.
Fucking Springfield, Oregon.
Hot takes.
Terrible golf in Eugene, but slightly outside, you have Dexter and Serene, which is amazing.
No, I mean, I'm sorry, but Alton Baker, their new layout is really good.
Alton Baker Disc Golf Park in Oregon, United States. Isn't there a full name that we're missing?
Yeah.
If you're going to say it right. I don't even live on that side of the country, and I still know
Was it
that
Oregon
stupid name.
Disc Golf at Alton Baker? I think it's what it is.
At Alton Baker in the United States.
It's got 2 par 5s now, Paige.
Oh dang! Like 300-foot par 5s?
No, well, they're long. They're long ones.
Oh,
they're
like
long, and it's ones you got to play. You got to play golf because the OB. But it's the changes that have been made to the Alton Baker course. Prime time.
That's cool. I might have to check it out if Dexter and Serene wasn't so amazing.
Yeah, I mean, with you driving down from Portland,
it's hard just to choose a course over those two, and then. Like, even if I did, then it's like, oh, I'll go to Oak Ridge because that course is pretty amazing as well.
I've only played that one in Oak Ridge. I want to play the other one.
The golf course?
No, the mill.
Yeah, the mill. That's like the only one in Oak Ridge, isn't it?
I thought there was 2.
No, I think it's just that one because the Oak Ridge tournament, like, throw down whatever at Oak Ridge, they rent out the golf course up there, and then it's just a pop-up.
Gotcha.
Pop-up Oregon?
Pop-up videos. Remember that?
Was that VH1 or MV?
That's VH1. Pop-up videos. Madonna in 1973.
Why don't they bring that back? Bring back MTV and VH1.
Because I don't think you can have it anymore, right? Like, what are you going to be watching Netflix and it's like pop-up videos? Like, while you're watching Netflix? That's called ads.
There you go.
What is up, everyone? Sorry we're getting a little derailed this morning. We wanted to let you all kind of populate in here and join us for another lovely Jammers in the Rough.
Did you just say this morning?
Yes, I did.
As always, Paige has no idea what time it is, nor what day it is, but he found himself here live on camera to talk with you all. And we have, I'm rambling. We have our amazing co-host, Josh, the miserable Winter, Cody, the absolute worst, Waldron, and as always, the disillusioned Paige. What is up, everyone?
I'll accept that name for you.
You guys are switched. I don't like this. Paige is always on the right. Switch it, Josh. Switch it. There you go.
I'm just gonna just kind of start to do my Stanley flexes and just.
That's not a flex. You're just a basic white woman now. That's all you are.
Oh, I am. I got.
I'll see you in the car ladder line in the morning. Yeah,
that's I'm going full into the barefoot shoes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you're gonna see me just shed deodorant and just be like, nah. The tinfoil in the deodorant is actually fucking with your mind, man.
I only do goat yoga.
The aluminum. The aluminum's gonna get you.
Hey, it could. Goat yoga. I'm telling you, it's a thing.
Goat yoga. Yeah, I'm gonna start renting out my goats. You need your lawn mowed? We don't do electrical or gas.
Have you ever
got goats? But I'm gonna get goats. That's my point. Goats and chickens in my backyard.
Josh,
I got hypothetical goats.
Do to backyards, dude. It's wild.
I mean, goats are amazing creatures, especially hypothetical goats.
Hypothetical goats.
Yeah, that's what Paige has.
That's what I have. I got the best goats in the world, hypothetically. They listen. They don't just eat everything. They only mow my yard. They, pick up after each other. Just the most amazing goats.
Is this like Schrodinger's cat, where we don't know if the goats would eat the grass until we get the goats?
Right.
Is the cat alive or is it dead in the box? I don't know.
The goats were in my yard. Would it or would it not? Y'all. We're just getting deep away from disc golf because disc golf is in a weird spot right now this off season.
It kind of is.
I mean, Scott Withers signed with AGL. That's huge.
That's a good move for him, though.
Is it? No. Is it? I think so.
think-
I mean,
That's
Scott
their
Withers'
biggest player ever, I think.
I think so. Definitely biggest
Mhm.
player ever. And Scott Withers doing a lot of sows. And that sows, which is Southern Oregon Winter Series,
I was saying,
covers a
what is
lot
that,
of Northern
sows?
California as well. And so,
Mhm.
AGL is based in California and do a lot of that push up to Northern Cali. So like, he expands his fandom and his range, and getting some cool, like maybe Scott Withers discs out there might be interesting. But
Yeah, but
But
also
he-
it pushes him up on the totem pole. Like now he's like at the top with that brand.
he's kind of at the top. Well, he was supposed to be at the top with Clash, but just not popularity wise, I guess.
No,
like,
he's still
comparison
with
to, like,
Clash though.
no, he's still with Clash, but I'm just talking about like in comparison with like Proctor and Oakley. Like they had a blow up
Mm.
season. I think Scott was supposed to be the man over there, and then the blow up season with them was kind of unprecedented and wasn't expected. And because like you had Oakley with the popularity with his YouTube channel, Is This Good, just taking off, and then Proctor with his success on the course. Because even like Scott had a awesome season, right? We had him on here when he popped off at Las Vegas, when he popped off on Waco. But yeah, to sign with AGL it's kind of interesting. So I'm kind of curious about those smaller brands, if being the man in a smaller brand like that is going to be pay off, where it's kind of more like, I don't know, like they're kind of just catering to their own little fandom that kind of doesn't really exist outside of that kind of California area. Like if Scott could actually bring them to the main stage, I guess, in disc golf.
You think he'll also pull in Gateway just because Gateway and AGL are made by the same?
I mean, I hope so. I think Gateway is making a big push this year. There's, some speculation around like 2 or 3 companies that are hopping onto the Gateway molding in plastic.
Dude,
And
I will say this. If you are a tomb thrower, this is a tomb. This
What
is
is it?
the chief that I got.
Oh.
It
Mhm.
is
The
it's a
microaggression?
tomb. No, man. Come. Oh my gosh. Dude, but this
I know we
kicked my
got
tooth out of
Josh
the
with the
bag.
totem pole. We got you with the chief. I'm just
What if it was a
feeling it
fire
right now.
chief? It's not like there's a man
Then
with
it's
a headdress
Avatar.
on here. Oh my gosh. But yes,
Not yet,
flat
because there's a
and flies
tournament. Like,
just like my tomb. Calm down.
is that why you're selling all your tombs? Because you're a chief man?
Well, I don't like expensive discs. You know that. Everyone knows that. But here, wait. Conundrum. Gateway inks their disc.
Oh, can you throw them?
I don't know. Prodigy used
It's
to do the
permanent
same
marker.
thing. Ugh. Ugh.
So, do they make Prodigy discs? They mark them the same way.
Get that tinfoil hat on, baby. Let's dive into it.
No, and I'm curious about like as more people try. I think I've heard a lot of people trying a lot of the Gateway and exploring some of the Gateway lineup, and I wonder what I wonder what that's going to do for their brand. If it's going to force people, because like there's just like a little bit of stigma on Gateway. If it's going to force them to these like little offshores, like of AGL or a Hooligan or all of these other little companies that get their discs manufactured by them, if it's going to force them there, or if it's going to start to come back to the hub of Gateway and start being successful with them too. Like what was it, Storm Discs? I think they went under though, but Storm Discs used to be. Is it Storm?
Was that made like the Valhalla and stuff, or was that
No, that's Viking Discs.
Viking? Yeah.
Yeah,
I haven't
like
seen a
the-
storm disc in a long time.
but I could be wrong.
You are.
I mean, I'm just starting to think about too, like, are smaller companies able to be successful on their own in this day and age? Like even like Birdie, right? Like they've been outsourcing, but if they're going to continue to make an impact, what is that going to look like? Do they need to start to partner with somebody like a Legacy or a Gateway to fully produce their discs so that they can have them? Because the attention span, I think, in disc golf is a little bit shorter right now, where having 1, 2, 3, 4 discs in your lineup that's been stretched out over 2 years, you just lose their attention span over the length of that. Do you need to go more into the Lone Star approach? Here's 20 molds at you, whether they're good or bad, you have excitement and things to try. Clash Discs did something similar where you're like, here's 10 to 15 molds, get excited, and then we're going to keep pumping out, like, here's a cherry, the guava, they're going to keep throwing discs at it to get that hype up, but give them the sample size to continue to try your molds.
So would you rather have quantity or quality?
That's
I think I think you can have both. You can have both of those.
I think you
But I'm
have
saying for
both
a
too. But
small
like,
company,
if we look
you
at
might have to
like,
pick.
you know, terminal velocity, they have a quality disc in regards to, you know, the Ursus, and even to the point to where Eric Oakley is bagging it and loves it. James Proctor was seen throwing it and being successful with it. Here's a quality disc, but why isn't, you know? And that's the speculation, right? And this is kind of the conversation. Why isn't more eyes turned into terminal velocity as a 2-disc manufacturer? Because they hit it out of the park with their first mold, which is the Ursus. I'd be hard pressed to find a disc that they didn't do in the Ursus that's bad. The baseline are just like good DX rocks.
KC Pro rocks.
KC Pro rocks, exactly, with a little bit more stability, so they're a little bit more favorable. You have a beat-in gliding, like they hit it out of a home run, but they struggled to pick up traction even with these like kind of pros. Even Birdie, right? Like they capitalized on Cupcake last year, and his
And
success.
he's gone.
And he's gone, and that helped with the Strike, which the Strike was a great mold. Strike was like huge. The Marvels were part of the year, and now they have these the Reaches that are coming out.
They have the
Oh, the-
Ultra, which is like it's like an Ursus without a bead.
Yeah, I mean a little bit beefier, I think, but still like, but because like, you know, these are people that, you know, they're not big manufacturers that come from big money that can do 10 to 20 molds at once. Even though like they're disc golfers at the core and they're being successful, what does that like a little bit of struggle look like long term, right? Hooligan just separated from Lone Star and now is kind of like has 4 or 5 molds of their own that's kind of finding a home for themselves and a plastic manufacturer for themselves because they're small, right? But they're rooted in it. And whereas like Lone Star, which isn't rooted in disc golf, they're rooted in profits and their oil. And this is more of a side project and hobby, but they're going to be successful because they were able to kind of just throw out a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, they had the money to push out. They had the manufacturing to push out a bunch of molds. You know, that's one. You know, like DM was super small. They weren't a manufacturer for a long time.
Yeah, but that was a long time ago.
Like,
relationship. Like back then, you can do that, right? You can slowly, and you can afford to miss. How many Discmania molds were just whiffs, and then they moved on? Like the PDX. PDX was a complete whiff, but they moved on from it, and they didn't feel it. But like, you know, smaller companies like TSA, can they really afford to have 2 whiffs in their lineup? And what does that do for them?
Yeah, I mean, but currently their lineup though is getting pretty large for the size of their company.
Oh, absolutely. I think TSA is starting to kind of push that. They're probably the most successful small molded people that have broken through to have now accessible, you know, good molds out there. But that's also because they had to balance it with something else, which is their art. You know, you look at Mint, and I'm pretty sure like TSA probably outsells Mint, but Mint also has Texas, which has going for them, you know, but the art's kind of holding them into the game, and they continue to navigate, I think, strategically and smart, but they're at where Discmania was when they started off. Like now they're battling quantity issues, and you know, they're not pushing out. Like last year was the year of Aura, and it seems like this year might be the year of Nebula Ethereal. But they have to do those like specific runs because they can't just do like, well, here's all of our lineup in our plastic, right? Like Praxis and 4 plastics. They get like, they're not doing that. They're doing Praxis and 1 plastic last year, 2 kind of like the same run, but like 2.5 versions of that run, right? Like here's the Oni stamp, here's the turtle stamp, here's the alternate turtle stamp kind of thing. I don't know. I feel like
or give me nothing.
Yeah, I mean, things are changing. You gotta try new things. Like there's what's that one disc that came out that's kind of new? That Captain Raptor that looks all weird looking.
The Craptor. It's called
with
a Craptor.
the Captain Raptor with the confetti inside. I mean, they're thinking outside the box.
Are they?
Are you talking about the Jawbreaker Z? Have you felt one?
Jawbreaker
you can
Z
actually
Flex.
feel the plastic. Like if you run your finger over it, you can feel where they have the specks of plastic in it. It's a little strange. Okay, Paige is just getting
all right. Josh, cue us up. That brings us to our segment.
Have you thrown one? Have you thrown one?
All Day Disc Golf presents Paige's Jammer, as queued up by Josh Winter.
That is the worst thumbnail in the world.
So this week we're talking about the Captain Raptor and Z Flex plastic. as Cody mentioned, it is a unique feel in plastic. It is kind of comfortable, but you can definitely feel the jawbreaker through it. It is as advertised. It is a crafter of a disc. It is a hog. It is beef. Here's my buddies, Lefty, with one of the smoothest forms I've seen. Putting all of his mustard into it and only to go 220. And here is world famous Dallas Garber throwing it. And surprise, surprise, as he rips it, it is beef. It is also beef for the 13-year-old Wonder Kid. And what else is there to say about the crafter besides it's just beef, beef, beef? It's one of those discs that borderlines, if you have slower arm speed, utility. If you have a little bit like further arm speed, it's still just going to be a hog, as you saw in the video. There's, if you don't want to go more than like 320 with the disc and you want it to fade consistently, that's going to be that disc. If you're a little bit slower arm speed, it's going to be your get out of jail card. I do want to talk about the plastic though. Initially it was comfortable. It's not super gummy where you're like being able to bend it in half, but it has a nice little give to it, which reminds me of some of those like older Champy discs that had some give and a little bit gumminess, but it started peeling. So after that day, you can see separation between the Jawbreaker and the Z plastic, and it did start to peel. And one of the spots was like right where my thumb wants to be, or my palm when I grip a disc, right? It was like right on this like little edge.
Do you got
here.
it with you?
I don't have it with me. It's in the car, but it is peeling to the point to where it's like, if I want to get like, how you pick at a scab, if you want to pick at it, you can probably dissect and pull apart the Raptor, which, I mean, I like it because of the overstability of it. Sometimes you just want to like, oh, here's this headwind. Let me hammer something into this headwind. If it turns, I still know it's going to come back. And sometimes I need something more overstable than my Glow FD3. I might reach for it, but
have you thrown a Z Captain's Raptor and just a regular Z Raptor? Where would you put this stability wise between Z Cap Rap and just a Z Raptor?
Oh, it's definitely, I mean, between those things right in the middle, right?
What I'm saying is it's because
so Captain Raptors are designed like, you got to not call them Raptors, right? Because they're not Raptors. They're a completely different mold. They're deeper. They're more overstable. They're designed to be more overstable. So I think something like the Splice and a FD3. They're both 9-speed overstable, but one is completely different than the other and going to be utilized differently. So the Captain Raptor isn't quite up to the Splice overstability, but it's still closer to like some of those old school FAF Firebirds, where it's going to handle all of the torque. The unique thing about the Captain Raptor, because the Raptors are based like kind of flippy. There's a lot of them that are just kind of flippy, kind of workable. And then you have the Raptor scale of like flippy to overstable. The most overstable like Raptor, this is still going to be more overstable than that. And so right now there's 3 runs of Captain Raptors, which is ESP, Jawbreaker, and the Z. And that's the order of their stability, right? ESP is going to be the flippiest. The Jawbreaker's right in between them. And the Z plastic is going to be the most overstable, per my experience with them.
The only reason I asked is Chris Dickerson did his in the bag the other day, and he said he carries the Jawbreaker because they're the beefiest. And I thought the same as you, where I thought they were not as overstable as the Z Captain's Raptor. So when I heard the pro say that, I was like, that seems odd.
And that's the thing too about some of these overstable discs. I think understable disc, it's obvious to tell you how you throw, and you can start to control it and mimic it. When you have overstable discs, you're going to run into some of those same things, right? We had a conversation a couple of weeks ago about the difference of torque, the difference of spin, the difference of power and torque and touch and spin and all of these like different ways. And so they could operate differently based on how people are throwing, right? The people that are going to notice those differently are going to be like the same thing of like, Dallas likes the Omen in Ethos plastic, but he didn't like the Omen in any of the other plastics. And I wouldn't even say the Ethos is the most overstable. It was just the most workable for him. And I think these Captain Raptors are kind of that same thing of, if they're thinking the Jawbreakers more, that's probably true. But also I think the Z were more color dependent than all of the other runs. I had a buddy, Colin, CH Sports, shout out, follow him here on this channel. But Colin was like adamant about it has to be like red, I believe. And correct me if I'm wrong, Colin, if you're listening. If you're not, text me, whatever. But he was color dependent, right? So it had to be this color. But if the green ones are flippier and this Pro that you're talking about got a green one or a pink one or whatever colors that they came in and they were flippier, that could be something too, because I do think Champion Plastic and Z Plastic has that little bit more color dependent, as well as the manipulation of like the dome to flat to pop top to stiff to all of these things that were slightly out of the control. But to me, like I said, I think Z Plastic is right in the middle. I also think the Z Plastic is going to beat in relatively quickly compared to the Z Plastic. And one thing that I do when I evaluate overstability and understability of discs, I do account for the plastic, not out of box. If this disc is overstable, like a second run to me is overstable because it can, like second run FDs, they're going to take a beating and maintain that stability. So it's overstable, and I will say it's one of the most overstable. Whereas a Jackal run, people say is overstable, but because of the swirly plastic, they beat a lot faster. And so out of the box, they might be more overstable than a second run FD. I will always say that it's just slightly less because it's going to beat in quicker, and that optimal flight isn't out of the box. The optimal flight is once it's seasoned. How long is that going to last, and what is that stability like in there? And that's how I start to evaluate things. And so the Z Plastic, I think, does take a little bit more beating than the Jawbreaker Z Flex plastic. And to me, because of that, it's going to maintain the flight characteristics longer, making it more overstable in my eyes.
That's like an Infinite's eye blend. It starts out more stable, but then beats in a lot faster, and then it gets seasoned really well.
Yeah, and I do got to think TSA and their plastics, right? They've really given me this viewpoint on them, because to me, Nebula Ethereal plastic, this kind of swirly, this is their champion plastic to me. This stuff can take a beating as much as you want to smack a tree, and it's going to maintain its flight characteristics. Whereas I think a lot of people say the Glow are actually the most overstable, and I think the Glow are most overstable out of the box, but the Glows tend to beat in quicker than the Nebula Ethereal, and then hold that kind of optimal flight once it's beat in. And so to me, the Glow is going to be underneath the Nebula Ethereal plastic. The Ethos is below that. And then we start to kind of go down to some of the other plastics. I think Ethereal is actually the closest to Star Plastic that I've felt with all of their lineup.
With Star, yeah, I would say that. Yeah, but also like the Glow plastic isn't always the most overstable in the runs, because like the Glow and like the Pathfinder, I think it's flippy for me.
Yeah, it's because he's got a fucking cannon. Fucking Josh.
Hey, I will say back to our Jawbreaker. What is with disc lately having this separation problem? Are they like?
I think it's how they're
companies, because like the Clash is having that problem with their like double steadies.
But that's like their attempt at overmolds, right? So like
I know,
the
but
difference of like Clash is like the overmold and the quality control and the lack of testing. Right now, people are investing in testing because they're just like, get it out there, make our money, and then we'll deal with the repercussions. I think as you explore plastic and how they fuse together, something like the Jawbreaker, they're not injecting them together, right? It's not like a swirl where there's like, oh, here's your swirl injections, and they're meeting up with these other plastic injections, and this is what creates the swirl. I think they started molding it, and in the cooling process, they like, threw confetti in, or they threw the Jawbreaker plastic in, and so it didn't really fuse together because you had different heat levels, and it led to some of that separation. That's my guess, but
no, that's what I was saying. I'm wondering why companies are having so many issues with this, because it seems like
they have no quality control. If they had quality control, we wouldn't have.
What we could do about this? It's crap. I don't like it.
Yeah. Well, and
be better.
And I think too, like you think like the lack of like quality control, right? With Clash, somebody just tore their video apart, and I have a buddy that was looking for Clash. He's like, and I was like, oh hey, I got this Wild Honey with the overmold. He's like, no, I've heard those things have just been destroyed and fall apart. And I'm just like, well, I threw it. It was a bomber, but that one video is ruining this kind of like small company's vibe. And now their big thing, which is the what is it? The tone plastic.
Yes, but that like only came out at the expo so far, right?
I felt one.
Where'd you get it at? All Day Disc Golf?
No, Scott Withers has. He's Team Clash, so Scott had it here at San Diego Open last week, and I felt it, and I think it felt boo-boo, personally.
What does it feel like?
It felt like cheap plastic on top, so all of the weight is in the rim. That's where all the weight is. So you almost have like this air. They're trying to go gyro, but they had like this little air plastic of like very soft plastic, as a dome, and then all of the plastic is in the rim to add, that. I don't know if it's gonna work. I didn't get to throw it. I just didn't like the feel of it, and it felt, so I'm hoping to make the changes of it. But that's that quality control. Can you afford to do these like wild honey and these overmolds that you did fail, and then you double down with the tune or the tone, and then fail again? What is that going to do for Clash?
No,
Yeah,
I don't like
that's
it.
a solid point, especially when they're so close together as like release time.
I think so. And
I think it's a
especially
conspiracy.
they're also like their weird hype train of like pushing the guava and then just completely abandoning the guava in favor of these overmolds. It's kind of a weird business model. But that brings us to Cody and his absolutely mild takes. What is
They
up,
are
Cody?
terrible. They are terrible. Can my take this week? No. Can we do something about the crap sleep scale? When buying used disc anywhere, the sleepy scale is an archaic, terrible system that is so subjective. And it's so terrible across the board because sometimes like the sleepy scale, 9 out of 10 is either new or you played one round with it or you field tested it. What if I go out there and hit 8 trees in that one round? What if I field tested and hit a rock? What if it's new and it comes from the factory like crap? I've had all of those things happen. And then you just have so many people that just don't talk about ink, which is I'd rather have a beat up disc than ink. Let's not talk about that.
But it's not even like used discs either, right? Like it is new discs. Like the moment you get a brand new disc unthrown, they're like, it's a 9 out of 10. Nothing's a 10 out of 10. So like even like your scale is wrong because it doesn't include new and unthrown.
And then you have those people that are like 10 out of 10 for sure. This has never left the bag. I've gotten stuff from the manufacturer that's like in a box rattling around that is like warped and stuffed, and I'm like, whatever. But
yeah, whenever I see somebody that posts a 10 out of 10, it's like it's really annoying because somebody's gonna get that thinking it's a 10 out of 10. The likelihood of it having 0 scratches or defects is 1 in a million. It's 1 in a million. There's always gonna be something wrong with that.
There was a guy running around that tried to do like how Pokemon cards get sent off and get graded and put in a plastic case and they get like graded. There was a guy running around trying to do that for disc golf. Do you remember that?
I do recall that popping up with like the plastic casings.
I do remember the plastic. Was he grading them?
He was trying to grade them, and he was trying to set himself up as the grader for disc golfs, where you send it to him, and then he grades them and sends them back.
That's just subjective as well. It's just one dude's opinion.
I mean, isn't that the whole setup though? Like, X and X graded 10 out of 10, Charizard. To your point, the sleeping scale is broken because it's not inclusive or indicative of actually how to look at discs. Like Cody mentioned, it doesn't include ink, and it should include ink. It's archaic and outdated, and hasn't updated to reflect the change of even the collector market, right? This has existed before the boom of COVID, and then we're still utilizing it, and then everyone runs on the different scales and assumptions, and then don't even get me started on decimal points. The decimal points are fucking 6.5. Like
there's no decimals. All decimals should be dropped. It's solid numbers only. And did you know that there's a separate scale for bags? Bags are 1 through 6. What does that even mean? Someone's like, it's a 5 out of 6 bag. No. Everyone, if you're selling used discs, just record a video of your disc and send it to people. That's it. That's all you gotta do.
Yeah.
Soul Crusher says to do it.
But it's also like on a scale of 1 to 10, 5 and below doesn't exist. So why are we doing a scale of 1 to 10? Why don't we do a scale of 1 to 5?
Ooh,
we don't even need 1 to 5. I don't think we need 1 to 5.
Because who's throwing a 5? Who's throwing a 5? A dog? Are you throwing it for a dog? That's all I would throw it for.
Okay, so if you could break it down, we'll go around and do each of them.
How would sleepy scale? Let me get my pen out. I got you.
What is your sleepy scale? What would you do, Paige?
What would I do? I don't
writing.
know. I'll give it letters A, B, C, D, E, F.
Oh my
no, I'm
gosh.
kidding. I don't know. I would look at like I said, I'd reduce it down to probably 5 numbers. I think 5 is new, unthrown, no ink. If defects exist, it's manufacturer defects. It's coming like it's how it was shipped, right? Like sometimes Discmania ships something and they didn't put it in a plastic bag, so it's like, but oh, this is how it came from the factory. To me, it's just new, unthrown. Here's 5 out of 5. A 4 out of 5 would be, hey, this has been field tested, it's been thrown. If there was mud, it's been wiped down, and there's no way to tell really that it's been thrown besides me being honest and letting you know that I've thrown it a couple times. 3 out of 10, then you're starting to kind of get into the used condition of the thing. No ink, used but not abused. 2 would include ink and slightly abused, but still have life left on it. And then 1, no life left on it. You're just keeping it because you want it to be utility disc, or you just want IS1 and you want to make $30 off. You want to collect your disc for dirt cheap that's been used and abused and has no life left. And so that's 1 out of 10. And I just keep it simple like that.
Okay. See, I've even drop it down even more simple. I feel is
Even
that
more
like I
simple?
feel like having ink is a variable that you can add to any one of the conditions.
Wrong.
I think having new.
So you're like
Unthrown.
decimal, but like, hey,
No.
it's a we're gonna narrow this down to only 2. New or used, but we're gonna go if it's a 2,
Close.
2.1 with ink, 2.2
Close.
with go ahead.
Close. So
Terrible.
new,
Terrible take.
new and unthrown, used. That's it. New unthrown, used with or without ink.
Josh's skill has 2: new or thrown.
That's terrible. That's the worst one, Josh.
No, it's not. Okay,
That is
okay.
bad.
Here, I'll add one more addition. New unthrown, used, and seasoned.
New,
That's it.
seasoned, and used. That's just a terrible fucking
No.
skill.
Who
No,
counts like
no.
this? Who counts like that?
I do.
No.
You don't
Page-
count like that?
No, he's like used, new, season. Like, what is happening?
Used,
This-
seasoned, new.
He doesn't
But
even
it
do
doesn't
this.
matter
He's like,
what someone
well.
tells me what their numbers are. I always want to, if I care about the collecting side of it, like, can I see a picture? Can I see a video? And that's how I'll grade it myself, because the Sleepy Scale is like you're
But
saying.
even
with
then,
the
like,
point
how many
system,
of those
it's just
like
dumb?
buyer feedback do you get of like, oh hey, would you guys say this was new, used, and abused? Look, there's a skid mark right here. Look, it's thrown. Like, you're just, I mean,
I like the people that say it's bag kept, which in their brain they kept it in their disc golf bag. It's been bag kept in my disc golf bag. I had a guy do that to me, like one of the first discs I ever bought. He's like, "Yeah, it's bag kept." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." When I get it there, it's all messed up. He's like, "Yeah, I kept it in my bag." All right. So as my
technically,
scale,
you got me.
if we're going down to 5, I would say
I'm going down to 5. What's your fresh take? Don't like.
Josh
you got
went
3
3?
and 5.
No, well then I'm going. I would have to say. I mean, but 5 makes sense because, like, I will give you credit. Anything under a 5, no one's buying. That's what you're taking to trash. So 5. Then if I do 10, 5 and below is Trash Panda. That's what you get. You're taking it to Trash Panda. He's going to recycle it. It's Jawbreaker. Okay.
I like that though, like a Trash Panda scale. Like, hey, Trash Panda, and now we're talking.
Okay. So if I would say the 5 throwable, so I think new unthrown should be its own. It shouldn't be field tested. It shouldn't be new unthrown. The way you got it from the factory is a 10 out of 10. Fact. Okay. A 9 is field tested and scuffs only. You can't have any dings. You can't have anything of that. Scuffs. Then I would say like an 8, dings, because you know, maybe some small little stuff. 7 would be gouges. 6 would be if it's very well seasoned. 5 and below is probably Trash Panda. Take me, recycle me, donate me to a school. A bunch of my discs at school are like beat up dingers crap. And that's fine because kids don't care. It probably works better for them.
But see, I think the problem that exists with a lot of these scales actually is what, like, you can't just use one for anything, because what determines collector in any type of market, right? And it's gonna be different. Discraft, they go crazy for their foils. Discmania, not so much as the foil as much as the stamp. And so you need a scale that I think includes some of that collector side of things, of like, what condition is the stamp in if it's Discmania? What condition is the foil in? And, you know, because like if there's some stamp fallout in it, that's just almost worse than ink, right? Some people would rather have ink on their discs then some stamp fall out because you're only put it on the wall. You only see this, so there's ink on the back. Some people only want this. I think a good example is there was a Ghost Shatter I sold Tim, the Nazman, that was this inked shit. Like Ryan, it was from Ryan Sharrow, so he just went crazy on the back.
Oh, he's
I think
a
it was from
terrible
Ryan
human.
Sharrow, but
Terrible.
like it just went crazy on the back. But the Ghost Shadow was still flawless and perfect, and so he didn't care about the ink because how he's going to mount it and how he's going to flex it is all about the stamp, and capturing that stamp, it's still worth some money. Like a Sexton Firebird wiped, it could be a 9 out of 10, never thrown, untouched, beautiful, beautiful disc, but they wiped the stamp. Nobody's gonna buy a Sexton Firebird for what.
Can
they
we
go
just
for.
talk about some of these people are crazy though?
I would.
Because like the people that are like, it's not a Sexton. Oh my gosh, it's not a Sexton. Or the remember when the Cloudbreaker X outs came out? The Innova made ones, and they're 100% a Cloudbreaker run, and people are like, no, not a Cloudbreaker. Never
I know,
seen it.
like the argument is the opposite though, right? Like I have a Link with the Cloudbreaker stamp. Is that a Cloudbreaker? It has a stamp. Your argument's just a stamp, right? So
Yeah,
I
I
have
remember
a
my
P3X.
argument. Yeah,
I have a P3X with the claws. Does that make it an MD3?
Yes.
my
Yes.
theory on that was if I take my Honda out and I take off the Honda badge, is it still a Honda? Yes, it still is. It's just unmarked. But can we talk about the crazy people that ink new disc? I've seen so many people that like it's a brand new disc, 10 out of 10. It just has rim ink. Who does that? What
Well-
monster in this world does that?
I mean, my Sleepy Scale version accounts for that
No,
because
it
you can
doesn't.
put with
Your
ink
Sleepy-
on any. It's a variable on any one of my conditions. One of the three, you can put with
No,
ink on
no.
a new one.
No.
Like that.
Ink is trash. Ink is the worst thing that happens to disc golf.
And who
Ever.
tries to cover it up with like red?
Ink
Oh,
is
they
the
have.
worst. That's going to be my hot take next week. Ink. I'm just going to talk about 10 minutes about how ink is the worst thing ever. It's terrible.
Ink isn't the worst thing ever.
It's terrible.
No, I think the way that people like some of them do them, like, and then they still expect top dollar. Like the people that like Colton. I know you tip us and you love us, but
Oh
don't
my
ink
gosh.
your discs that way. When he writes his name, like,
Colton's like, hey,
oh,
I got
hey.
a brand new disc.
whoa,
Oh,
I didn't like it, guys. Pay me $80 for my signature.
I hope you're listening, Colton, so you can learn. You need Jesus in your life.
Also, send me my first run PD.
Ooh.
Are we calling people out on here? Calling out Colton at 9:40. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Put that in the notes for next.
All right.
That's right. Ink with more ink. That's monstrous. Monstrous, people.
I don't know. I wish I still had it. There was this Super Ink Night Strike 1 that was just god awful, but I sent it to Mike Kemp and he died over it and just absolutely saved the disc.
Yeah, it didn't have venom on it.
Yeah.
I remember that
Mm,
disc because you tried to send it to me. I was like, no, I don't want that.
Yeah, you didn't want it.
Nah.
That's when my first purge of Night Strike 1s, and now I have to go through my second purge. So if you need a Night Strike 1, 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5, 3 out of 3, you let me know.
3 out of 3.
3 out of 3 with
I'm
ink.
down for 3 out of 3. I ain't bad. That ain't bad. Still,
That's
still a 3.
But then, like, what? Meatloaf, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. What? Like, what? It's just terrible.
Yeah. Because
3?
also, like-
you can't pick an odd number, Josh. I mean, come on. Well, I
What do you
guess
mean?
5's odd too.
It's good,
It's because-
it's bad,
because it's
and really
irrelevant.
good. You
Because it's-
choose.
Exactly. It's irrelevant because if you are you're getting it to throw, all you need to know is it new, is it used, or is it like
And-
well seasoned?
100%. That's why I videotape every disc. If I sell you a used disc, I'm going to videotape it because then that lets the person, you are going to scale it yourself.
like,
I will say,
This-
hey,
this- hey guys, you want to see how Night Strikes are made? Let's record a video.
Josh, he understands. But I've sent
Oh.
people videos and I just say, hey, in my head, it's an 8 out of 10, and I show them the rim. I show them, I don't ink anything, but that lets people choose. Because they might say it's an 8, it might say it's a 7. I like
And
to
it's all
grade a little-
subjective, right? And
Yeah,
also
but
when
it
people
makes
are
them-
buying into excitement and hype, and then it lands on their doorstep, and they want somebody to blame because whatever, that's the first thing they're going to always. Where it's like it's a 7 out of 10, not an 8 out of 10, and it's like, okay, what really is the difference? But a video is going to showcase a lot of that. I do like
I've
the
only
video
had
aspect.
one
It takes too much time.
problem.
But also I'm a thrower at heart, not a collector at heart. I know collectors get a little bit more loose with it than I do, because like Josh is saying, if I'm going to throw it, I just need to know if it still has life left or doesn't. There's my 2 scale. can it throw and still get the desired flight of that disc? Does it fly like a FD3 or does it fly like a CD2 now? You let me know.
But some discs, like their whole flight is when they get seasoned.
That's what
Like, that's the main part
I
of it.
prefer used discs.
Well, you see, you're saying seasoned, and I'm talking about does it have life left or not? There's a point past season where it no longer has life left, and it's just done.
Not my D-Line FD.
Yeah,
Just
because
keeps
you're
getting better,
what
baby.
are you doing with your D-line FD? It's a broken disc for a reason. Oh, hey,
Is it like
let
a
me put on
soft
Spike
justice?
Kaiser and do like this little barrel roll out of this, like, and go 50 feet.
It does its job, though. You know.
Yeah.
Don't be ashamed, Josh. Don't be ashamed.
So
All right.
let's get
some news buzz. Let's do that.
News
let's
buzz.
see.
That's what yours is called. News buzz. Are you a bad?
We got
bee?
new buzz
Yeah,
with
new.
4 Z's.
Oh,
Yes, and
that's
Rare
terrible.
Air Disc sponsors this segment. You can use code JAMMERS for 10% off your order. You can get collector discs, new discs, all kinds of discs. RareAirDisc.com. Okay,
He scales them
what
too.
I want, yeah, on my
3 out of
scale.
3.
We
All
talked
of
about it. He's
Rare
doing
Disc
3
are
now.
3 out of 3.
It's new, used, or seasoned.
Just eliminate it completely.
So UDisc, no longer being partnered with the PDGA. What are you guys' thoughts?
Oh, I think it's a terrible move that
Stupid.
gets away from, I think, what disc golf was built on, which is like, some of these like smaller companies that are for the love of the game, building these like little things that help the game be productive, and then completely separating from them. Like, I understand there might be a partnership with Statmando. That's good for them. They're out of Washington. Do your thing, but I think there's a world that exists where you can do UDisc and Statmando together, especially also like for the last 8 years. All of your volunteers you've trained to keep score on UDisc as they're following, keep stats as they're following. So now all of a sudden, like, you have 8 years of sample size of volunteers that have been trained, and there's a lot of people that just love to volunteer and forever volunteer. So now you're asking them to get retrained in a new system to what? Push your own app, your own scoring app, which is dumb because you're excluding, I think, what the core of disc golf is, which are some of these like Jomez, right? You've already engulfed Jomez into your system. How long until they start to kick out like, these other media crews that are, Central Coast? How long until the PDGA says, hey, either you pay up or you get out of here? And now they don't have access to the tour and what they're doing. And I remember trying to go to Vegas and they're like, if you bring a filmographer, you have to pay us $1,000 and it has to be. So they're already trying to eliminate some of those like smaller scales. Like if I want to bring somebody with me to a pro tour and have them film me and follow me and record me throwing, there's that separation. Same thing Simon when he was like, oh, I can't record while I'm playing, or have somebody record. So it's like you're taking what made the sport popular, which is the access, and you're making it inaccessible, and you're doing that by eliminating UDisc, and that's tough. I don't think that's right. I think it's dumb.
I mean, I've heard the arguments that they've already, like, at least for the volunteers, have already been recording scores and stuff on both apps, the PDGA and UDisc. So I bet there's a lot of people who are excited not to have to do both of them and just do one. But with that said, like, UDisc is a household name. Like why wouldn't you find a way to integrate that? Like they've been in the game for so long.
Like,
and
think about it. You go to a course for the first time, Pro Tour included. You're not bringing up the PDGA app. What are you doing?
No.
Oh, I've never been here before. Let me pull up UDisc and let it help me navigate where we're at.
Well, most courses have a sign when you get there. Bring up UDisc.
Yeah.
Like, and my philosophy is if it's not broke, don't fix it. Was UDisc causing an issue? I don't think so. Everyone knows how to use it. And I understand what Paige is saying about training new people. My issue with it is 99% of disc golfers that don't have anything to do with the tour, that play weekly or bi-weekly, whatever, use UDisc. They don't bring up the PDGA. I've only used that one time. And that was in a tournament when I had to keep score. But why would you go into this and then change it when it has to be for money? That's the only reason you're doing it.
Like,
but
that's my first thing too, right? Like, how much did PDGA ask UDisc to pay them for the rights to use their software? Like they charged Jomez $500,000 a year. How much are they asking you just to help promote them? And then you just said, no, we're not going to pay that because we need the $30 a month.
Yeah, then they're like, we're going to make you pay $30 a month and we're obsolete. Goodbye.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing is that they did start to put like a bad taste in people's mouths because of the price hike. Like I feel like UDIS price hike is kind of out of touch.
Oh, I'm the biggest hater of the price hike. I've been on record talking loads of shit, but
about everything.
PDGA separated from
About
UDIS
everything.
isn't right. And I will say
Paige is on
all,
record for talking all the time.
Like I don't pay for UDisc, I don't pay for the subscription, but the separation of PDGA and UDisc is bad for the sport, and it's not going to help grow, and it's really going to what's the word? Just monopolize this entire thing that we have going on here.
Or
in
are you going to have two separate entities that are now clashing? So instead of, and what's going to happen is that who's going to suffer? The players, not the companies. They're both going to make their money. They're getting their $30 a month from how many tons of people, and how much money are they really investing into it? I'm not saying they don't do a lot, but where does that $30 from? A million subscribers? Maybe, I don't know. I don't know the numbers.
But before UDisc was used with the PDGA, like they were still putting time and effort into development, adding new features all the time. Like just because they work with the PDGA does not mean it's not going to evolve. And that's why I will continue to always pay the fee, whatever ridiculous price it is, because I feel like the people who created it, the owner, the designer, they put so much effort into this thing, and it's awesome. The way it's evolved is great.
But Josh, do you
but how does it hurt the player? Like you said, it hurts who's it going to hurt?
I'm saying if you have two companies fighting over disc golf scorekeeping, where you're going to have to every week. Well, my league is using this scoring, but my doubles tournament is using this scoring. Like I don't want to have to go between both. Give me one. I don't want to have to go to a new course and have to download another app and be like, well, to keep score at this, like. Who knows if it's going to, and you've seen that happen with different things where you have to use different stuff wherever you go. Yeah. Where I would rather just be one cohesive unit where somehow could you mix Statmando and UDisc? I don't know. I'm not a software developer, but it's just bad for people.
It's definitely bad for people, I think, and it's bad for the disc golfer, and it's forces separation that doesn't need to exist. But also, I think a good thing to kind of start to look into, we're only, 3-4 years away from Pro Tour National Tour. We're just 3 or 4 years from that combined of them. Are we potentially looking at a split now? Because what the PGA is doing with this monopolizing and this dominance of it, what happens if Gatekeeper Media and UDisc get together and they want to do their own tour with all of the things that the Pro Tour has abandoned? Hey, you let go of Vegas? Perfect. Here's this amazing tournament that already has prestige. Throw that on the docket. Hey, you know what other tour they abandoned? De La Viega, Masters Cup. Throw that on the docket. What other tour? Like, you can go and look at all of these things that in the last 3 or 4 years, big tournaments that are still happening that have been abandoned by the Pro Tour. And now you get these equally as big media companies and content creators that are being abandoned by the Pro Tour. How long until you have this thing that has already built itself because they're happening? Now we just start to attach visual, we attach, coverage, because like a Gatekeeper is already doing that. They're going to these big A tiers and filming. Like they'll go and film like Goat Hill, right? Goat Hill used to be a big part. Now all of a sudden it's overlooked, it's glossed over. The West Coast has 2 events this year, or 3 events this year, and that's it. Well, when do they start to say, hey, UDisc, you want to partner together with Gatekeeper, and we're going to do a West Coast push, and we'll have 10 events that are already happening, that already have the funding, already have it, but we're going to create our own tour separate of it. And I think this also, too, there's a new rating system in town that's not the PDGA. And it used to matter because the PDGA was your rating and that's what you would do. But now all of a sudden, this new rating system that's being fleshed out via UDisc, which also has more numbers associated with it, not just one tournament a year or 2 tournaments a year on this course. You have thousands of casual players playing it and getting more of an accurate reflection of a rating, when do we start to gravitate towards that? So it's like, hey, keep your pro tour, go do whatever the hell you want. Here's this new and improved national tour back into the grassroots, back on these big tournaments, and start to see a push with that to rival it.
Disc golf civil war.
I mean,
It's coming.
It could be why PDGA has been making those moves, is because disc golf is growing at a pretty steady rate, and they're kind of, in at the ground floor. There's nobody competing against them, and so if they keep up this pace while monopolizing a lot of the areas without somebody else coming up from the bottom, they're going to be the powerhouse 10 years from now. Not saying there's anything wrong with that. I don't have that many things poor to say about the PDGA, but I think having one company run this sport is it's not needed. We need something else. We need something different.
So Colin at CH Sports, pair up with UDisc and create your own thing. Manny, make the art. Rare Air Disc, be the vendor.
I think the husk is already there, right? Like Silver Series is being abandoned this year. All those Silver Series, there's your tour. Like, take your Silver Series, follow that tour. That those tournaments are still going to happen because they're good tournaments. And then also when you see like some money get involved, right? Like you think about Saudi Arabia trying to steal James Harden with this crazy amount of money. What happens if you're like, hey, Eagle, you want a guaranteed $1,000 every tournament you play and probably guarantee winnings? Like, I'm going to pay you a contract, show up to 10 of our shows, and each one of those you're going to get $1,000 to cash, or even not that level, right? Drew Gibson.
This happened in golf, like you just said. Remember the Saudi Arabia League and the PGA? The exact same thing happened. They ended up having to buy them out because they became a viable competitor where they're like, yeah, we're paying a bunch of money to come overseas and play.
And I think, and Saudi Arabia, they're throwing big money. I don't even think disc golf, you have to throw big money at it to win them over. Right now,
you're 2 tour series. I'm there.
We'll give you your own disc, the pixelated.
Same disc.
So I mean, and I think it does, right? Like, there's a reason why monopolies aren't good for things. It stops creativity, it stops growth, it stops the ability to continue to push your own business forward, and it takes away from what makes the sport. So I mean 2024 would be cool if we see the dying of PDGA, but in that death an immersion of something better and bigger.
You heard it here first. Paige hates the PDGA tour. He wants him dead. Call the FBI.
And maybe I think the PDGA is bad because they're shedding the things that make them great. Like the Silver Series is needed. Being able to watch like a Bradley Williams pop off at a Silver Series gets you excited about him on Pro Tour. And then it's like college, like you follow the college star through the NFL. Silver Series is given, like when Nate Sexton popped off at Resistance Open, you're like, oh, hey, here's Big Germ, here's Sexton, here's Withers. Like you see these people and you get excited for them. And Cole was there as well. But you get excited for that card. And this is like, what, 3 years ago? Look at where they're at now. And then you can be like, oh, yeah, Cole drowning in the rain. Now he just won Ledgestone. You follow his career because of these things that exist, and they're working adamantly to get rid of them, and that's fucked up.
Easy, fella. Easy. Easy.
All right, well.
It's so easy.
That's what we end
Guys,
on. Guys,
thank you for tuning in this week. Keep liking, subscribing, Jammers in the Rough Facebook page. I already gave Colin a shout out, so do your thing. Cody's convinced the Numa and the Pixel's the same disc.
They are very close, y'all. They are very close.
He's going to test them this week, and he'll have an answer for you next Tuesday. So with that, please join us Tuesday, 6 o'clock PST, 9 o'clock, wherever Cody exists. And keep jamming it
where
in
the head of our
rough.
government
We'll see you next week.
9 p.m. Eastern.